What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to my favourite GX era profile, and that is of course Heroes. So this hero build is going to be extra special because it's going to be extra shiny as well. At the end of the video I'll also show you a demo side deck that I would say you'll be looking for to make this deck compete at its highest possible level in this current format. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So we're going to be starting off with the elemental heroes themselves. We are going to be playing triple elemental hero Stratos. So this is your ideal normal summon of the deck because your other heroes are going to be a little bit better later game, or they're going to be ones that you want to special summon or just send to the graveyard in the form of elemental hero Shadow Mist. Hopefully one day this card will get an upgrade as well. Then you back up your elemental heroes with one liquid soldier. This is your ideal one that you want to be able to do one of the two effects. Its normal summon effect is great because it lets you revive a level 4 or lower hero from the grave, which lets you bring back your Shadow Mist ideally, and then trigger Shadow Mist to get you a quick play mask change. But what you're going to be doing turn 1 is you're actually going to be using this as fusion material in EVE to work your way into an absolute 0, which gives you the ability for a board wipe as well. And then on top of that you'll get an additional draw 2, ditch 1. Backing this up with the elemental hero Honest Neos. Some people don't play this, it's completely up to you. This is my 41st card in the deck alongside the Winged Karibo, just because I do like the idea of having these particular type of hand traps. I do like the ability of the Honest Neos to be a drop and attack stat buff, because then that gives you a bit more of an aggressive output going second, but also quite a nice defensive output if your opponent forgets about it and tries to walk over one of your lower monsters. You drop an Honest Neos on it and it makes it a lot difficult to deal with. Then of course, to finish off the elemental heroes, we are playing the one Neos. This is needed for the fusion plays, and ideally that's going to give you the ability to board wipe during your opponent's turn even more so, alongside the absolute 0. Onto the Destiny Heroes, we are playing newly released to free triple Destiny Hero Malicious. I wonder if the reason this was brought back was just for the QC rarity. Well, if that was the case, it definitely got me hooked because I had to pick this up as a quarter century. Now I just hope and pray that Konami don't hit it again. But you're going to be playing free Mali backed up by the one Plasma. Entirely up to you whether you want to main deck this or side deck this. It is ideally more beneficial for you to go first. It can be useful going second as a nice bit of a board negate, but it really does come down to your personal preference and the route of play you want to go to. I feel that this is going to be a bit more effective for you. Yes, your ideal end board would be a Dark Lord, DPE and a Plasma, but there are some times when you might need to sacrifice a DPE or a Dark Lord, more so the Dark Lord, in order to add Plasma to that end board as well. And that can be quite nice because then you'll get a pop of anything that might threaten this card with the DPE, and also just being able to absorb your opponent's monsters can be very helpful, which is why this is the one that would be mained over something like a Dark Angel. Then the last Destiny hero we are playing is the Denier. You can play more Destiny heroes if you want to, but honestly, now that Mali's back at 3, you don't need to rely on that. And the reason I would say that is because throughout the combo, you'll usually be able to hard poly into a Destiny hero DPE by being able to use Polymerization plus 2 Destiny hero monsters, which then would ideally leave you a couple of Destiny heroes left in the deck. More times than not, you're going to be banishing the Mali, and you'll be able to use Mali 4 times a turn because your Denier will be able to put a Mali back to the top of the deck, and then you can use it again, which is great in normal Dark Warrior decks because you've got more that you can make. You can make any link summon that you want with your utilizing the Malis. However, in this particular deck, you're just going to be utilizing it to link climb, or you're going to leave the Mali on the board as a dark hero that can then be either fused to get into DPE, or you're going to be using it as fusion material to get you into a Dark Claw. So it does have some utility for you, but it does require additional cards to help it make it more consistent. So being able to play it like this, sometimes having one left in the deck or putting that 4th copy back into the top of the deck with the Denier, and then use something like a Fusion Destiny at the end of the turn, can either set you up with a second DPE, or in my particular version, I do like the ability to go into, as a bit of a preview, the Dystopia. You can of course play the other one as well that sends the Shadow Mist from deck to the grave, but honestly I quite like the Dystopia as a nice little burn option, and it does give you that nice additional pop effect as well. For the Vision Heroes, of course, you are playing triple Vision Hero Faris, backed up by double Vion and double Increase. Now, Vion can be another ideal starter for you. The only annoyance with the Vision Hero package is Increase sucks if you hard open it. And the reason that people play 2 is if you hard open it, it makes the Faris combo a lot more complicated, which is why people do tend to play 2 of it. And I have personally found this every single time when I go into game 2, I'm like, you know what? Increase seems to be the most flexible card in my entire deck, and I could feel comfortable getting rid of it and putting it down to 1. I do that, I open up an Increase, and my combo becomes even more complicated than it needed to be. So it's definitely one of the ones that you kind of want to keep at 2. I'm not the biggest fan of the whole idea of playing 2 garnets just in case you open up one, because if you open up both, you're in the same position just with 2 garnets instead of 1. But it is just kind of the way the game works, and then you kind of increase your consistency or trying to decrease the consistency of seeing both, and making sure that that combo is more consistent to be resolved. So that's it for all of the monsters. Moving on to the spells. Once I get the monsters out of the way. So we get rid of the monsters. Moving on to the spells, of course, we do play triple A Hero Lives. Now this is your ideal starter. Stratos will be your ideal normal summon, but this is one that can lead you to a Stratos, or it can lead you to a Shadow Mist, which leads you into a Dark Law. Stratos will lead you into either a Liquid Soldier that you might want, which can make Liquid Soldier's first effect a little bit more consistently, because then once you get rid of your Stratos as you work your way forward, that can then give you a little bit more ability to kind of then use Liquid Soldier to bring it back from the graveyard and move plays from that point on. But ideally, if you don't already hard open up a Stratos, you go Hero Lives, get the Stratos to the board. The Stratos will then be able to search you out of a Vision Hero Vion. Sorry, not a Vision Hero Vion, but a Vision Hero Faris, and then you're able to make your combos from there. More times than not, when you activate a card like a Hero Lives, your opponent will hit you with an Ash Blossom. Like, paying half your life points is just so tempting for your opponent to hand trap it. But keep in mind, if they do Ash Blossom this, you just activate a second copy. If you see another one, it just means you've paid 6,000 life points in your first route of play, and you need to make sure that your board you're building is pretty much unbreakable. So it is a little bit of an Achilles heel, but a card is just crazy good not to play. And then we do play triple Fusion Destiny. This is another card that if they do bait out a Ash Blossom with your Hero Lives, Fusion Destiny can still be very helpful for you. The one thing you need to remember is that when you activate Fusion Destiny, you are locked into Dark Heroes from that point on, which is why it does get a little bit tricky, because it means you can't go down the Sunriser route, which does make the combos a little bit more awkward to play. It also means if you're trying to OTK, you can't go through your Wake Up Your Elemental Hero. So it does give you a couple of things to think about, which is why it's something you want to save for a little bit later on in your combo. And it's also one of them ones where you have option number 1 is to hard make the DPE by being able to search out a poly off of the Vion and then get your Denier and your Mali into rotation, and then your backup plan is a Fusion Destiny, which is why it's quite helpful to have those 3 Malis in the deck. Then moving on, we do play triple Mask Change. Now I know this isn't the max rarity of Mask Change because it is an ultra rare, but I still count an OTS Super. Still looks really cool, and these were American playset that I got one of my friends way back when, so it probably has a bit more sentimental value than actual rarity. So before people point that out and go, oh, it's the only one that isn't, well, that's the reason why. Mask Change is insane. The ability to quick effect tag and then tag out one of your hero monsters to get you into a Dark Law, or of course in this particular version going into the Wind Blast. Now the Wind Blast will allow you to dodge imperms or targeted effects on your Stratos, which is quite helpful, and then the other option to dodge and targeted effects will be on Vion or Faris. More so on the Vion because the Faris will already be gone from the graveyard or not needed on the board anymore, but the Vion ability to normal summon it and then Foolish Burial a Shadow Mist or Foolish Burial a Mali can still be susceptible to something like an Imperm, especially when you ideally want its second effect to get you a poly. So if you're able to tag it out and then bring out another copy later on in the turn because you've been able to get to a second copy through the back of Vision Hero Faris, it then gives you a bit more ability to kind of work around. Not that you wouldn't be able to do that after an Imperm anyway, but it just gives you the ability to still get the Foolish Burial and then still continue to make your combos without being interrupted massively, and then still get an additional Dark Lord to the board. And for the other ones, we do play the one Miracle Fusion and the one brand new, very themed Polymerization. Now this was a pain in the backside to get hold of, which is why I don't have more copies of it, but honestly I'm still quite happy to play one poly. I know some people do play 2, which is completely fine, and I would love to pick up a second copy of this. I just love the artwork, like Bastinatrix and Avian on the other side. It just looks absolutely amazing. The blue, the red, moving into the poly, just, oh, love it. But the idea is that this is just your normal Polymerization that you search for the back of the Vion. You might want a second one for the grind game, but honestly I feel that's where the rest of your cards can kind of come into play. One Reinforcer of the Army to search out all of your warrior monsters, one Foolish Burial to send either a Mali or ideally something like a Shadow Mist, which will then search you out another one of your heroes. You do need to be very, very careful in this deck. Some of the cards that will seriously hurt it are Droll Lockbirds and Nibiru. This deck is not perfect. It is still missing like a Link monster or an early doors monster that can help them protect against stuff like Droll and stuff like Nibiru's, but that waits to be seen if we will ever get a card like that. I really hope that we will, because then that would really give heroes a massive fighting edge in most competitive formats, rather than just one of those out of nowhere top-in decks that does insanely well when it gets forgotten about. And then the final one that we play is Favourite Contact. This is obviously the counterpart, and this is another one of your garnets, which is why you could arguably put this deck up to 45 cards if you wanted to. It currently is 41 cards on this particular build. That's where, if you wanted to, your second poly would come into play. You can play 3 more additional hand traps if you want to, stuff like Ash Blossoms. But what I kind of went with is I went with cards that were going to be beneficial for me going first or second, that would give me that balance that if I go first, yes, of course, Ash Blossom is still useful, but it doesn't really give me the ability to dodge particular effects, or it doesn't give me as much of an effective outcome to be able to stop my opponent dead in their tracks, which is why I decided to go for Forbidden Droplet as a ideal go second card to help me break boards and then push through for an OTK with the heroes. But also, if I was to go first, I can set this card and it acts as an additional form of disruption, as well as being able to dodge targeted effects sometimes as well. The other card I went with was Triple Infinite Impermanence. Sometimes to turn off that back row can be quite helpful in the column, but also being able to drop this through the hand trap, not worry about talents or not worry about Cool Body Grave can be very, very helpful. Cool Body Grave is another card that you might be like, well, that one is in most builds, why isn't it in this particular build? And personally, the reason for that one is I don't want to rely on a card like Cool Body Grave. Yes, it is completely cracked. If you open up Cool Body Grave, it is cracked beyond belief, because then you are protected from stuff like Droll, which some people are maining it, some people are siding it, but it's one of the ones that I didn't want to rely on a one-off to help me protect everything. If I was going to do anything like that, I'd probably look more towards the Crossout Designator kind of route, and then when I'm putting Crossout Designator into this deck, I'm definitely bumping up to 45, and you'd be looking at Crossout Designator, and then you'd play the targets that end your turn, rather than the targets that slow you down and make it a bit awkward. You'd be going for targets like Droll that will really, really hurt you, Fluoros, which will really hurt you as well, and then Nibiru. So that's it for the entire main deck, 41 cards in total. Moving on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we've got my favourite hero monster, and that is Masked Hero Darklaw. Absolutely love this card. Playing 2 of it, it's probably not the right format to be playing 2 of it. You could arguably cut it down to 1, but there are times when you do need to dodge your Shadow Mist into this. And the benefit of that is when you turn your Shadow Mist into Darklaw, your Shadow Mist then gets a search. Keep in mind, you either get to do the special summon effect of Shadow Mist to search out a Mask Change, or you get the ability of when it's sent to the graveyard to search your monster. So you won't be able to do both in the same turn, but that's why getting the search for the monster or getting the special summon of Mask Change is useful, because then you can set the Mask Change, activate during your opponent's turn, and then get you the search off again as well. On top of that is where you can start turning your Mallies into Darklaw, which can be very helpful. Then we've got the one Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. What an amazing card this was. It's a shame that its main limelight came in every other deck that was being able to abuse it, thanks to Verte Anaconda, but then in the hero deck it still shines massively amazing, because it does gain that additional attack stats while also reducing your opponents, and still giving you the ability to pop one of your cards on one of your opponents, and then float itself back during the draw phase, or if it's no longer in the graveyard to do so, it can float back one of your other Destiny heroes. The big sad point about this is it is a dark, so it can get hit with Bestials, so if your locals is crawling with Bestials, it does make this a little bit more awkward to activate, resolve, and get the full outcome of it. Then we do have the newly upgraded Wake Up Your Elemental Hero. This is your OTK enabler, followed up by the newly upgraded Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. Now, what I do love about Absolute Zero is it gives me the ability to play Masked Hero Acid, and the benefit behind playing both of these is if I Mask Change my Absolute Zero into Acid, I get a full board clear. Acid deals with all my opponent's monsters, Absolute Zero deals with all my opponent's monsters, and Acid deals with all the back row. You don't have to play Acid, it's just one of my favourite heroes, and I do like the idea of being able to go front row, back row, done. We've then got the one Sunrise, which can also be your aggressor with a nice little attack stat buff for all of your monsters, and then the ability to be able to pop during the damage step as well, or during the battle phase, sorry. Then we do play the one Elemental Hero Flame Wingman Infernal Rage, which will lead you into your Elemental Hero Shining Neos Wingman. Now I know, again, this is the only other card that I haven't upgraded. There is no reason or nostalgia behind not upgrading this card. It's just the one that has eluded me. I do want to buy it on eBay, but I'm like, I don't want to be that guy that buys a £3 card on eBay, and then by the time that person ships it to me, pays the fees and everything else, they've made like £1 on the card. So I'm waiting to find someone with it at locals and then trade into it to be a little bit more, or just get it on top of a trade that I'm going to be doing. So that's the reason behind that one. Definitely want to be playing the Elemental Hero Shining Neos Wingman. This is obviously a lot more accessible thanks to the reprints in the Megatins, and it does give you that ability to kind of control your opponent a lot more while being able to set up multiple board wipes in the form of the Absolute Zero, your Shining Neos Wingman, and so forth. Already talked about Dystopia, and then obviously the Hero Blast is to be able to dodge target effects on your Shadow Mist. Second effect can come up, because if it's special summon, you get to target a face-up monster your opponent controls, its attack becomes half its current attack, and then once per turn during either player's turn, you can pay a 500 life points to target spell, track your opponent controls, and return it to the hand. So, nice little bounce. Sometimes it can be effective, sometimes not so great, but like during your turn, if you're up against Yubel, you bounce their Nightmare Pain back, and then you have a bit more of an open door to deal with your opponent's Yubels. For the Link monsters, we do play the one Devicer. The idea behind this is when you make it, you get to reveal your Elemental Hero Shining Neos Wingman, sorry, your Flame Wingman, and this will then allow you to add your Neos. Sorry, I was right. You reveal your Elemental Hero Shining Neos because it lists Neos, and then that adds your Neos, and then you use your fusion to get into this by using Neos. There we go. Get it right eventually. I've got the 1 Cross Crusader. I've cut this down to 1. I'm just testing it out at 1. You probably want it at 2 just for the grind game, but I felt that I wanted to fit Acid in for this particular format because I feel everyone is trying to play that balance of control decks as well as aggression decks, so you do have that off chance that you might just face a back row deck straight out of the blocks, and Acid does give you a nice little way to kind of control that and kind of keep it in its area. And then the last 2 is, of course, the 1 Wonder Driver and the 1 Dread Decimator. I actually like Dread Decimator. A lot of people undervalue how good this card is, but this card and any hero it points to gains 100 attack for each hero monster with different names in your graveyard, and if this card attacks a defense position monster, it inflict piercing battle damage. Now, you might not always need it, and another option is Trinity if you want to play Trinity, but I feel that that's kind of been power crept thanks to Wake Up Your Elemental Hero. But the idea is you've got a nice little aggressive Link monster, especially with additional mallies that are floating around, that you're able to kind of climb up into this a lot easier than most, which can be very, very helpful. So that's it for the entire main deck. I'm now just going to swift through a demo side deck. So right now, my demo side deck currently consists, and apologies for the different sleeves, but they're all in different decks right now, is double Raigeki. This can very easily be Lightning Storm, but I felt that I'm also main decking, or not main decking, sorry, side decking, triple Cosmic Cyclone. So this was able to deal with back row, and I thought I'd like the Raigeki to deal with front row, which means even if I've presented a board or put monsters on the board, I can still Raigeki and clear my opponents off. We've then got the 1 Dark Angel, so the idea is if you're going first, you'll probably take out your Plasma and go for Dark Angel, because as soon as you give your opponent a Dark Angel, they pretty much cannot activate spells, so it means you don't need to worry about Dark Ruler, Droplet, everything like that. Droplet can be a little bit more awkward, but there are still ways that they can get rid of this, which is why a lot of decks are playing Relinquish Anima, so I highly advise you do not put this in against a deck that will play Relinquish Anima. So don't put it in against Fire King Snake Eyes or Snake Eyes in any way, because they'll definitely be playing an Anima, and they'll just link it off, and then you've given them a free monster. But the idea is if you put this against anything like a Runic deck that they can't get rid of it, all of their spells are shut off. If you put it against Tenpai, all of their spells are shut off as well. It does make it very, very awkward for them to try and resolve any spell card whatsoever. I've then got Droll and Lockbird. I just think this is a really good hand trap for this format. And then Triple Fluoros. I'd kind of decided to go with hand traps again, quite like my main deck, that were effective Floodgate-esque hand traps. So rather than have I dropped this at the right time, does this stop my opponent, I went with cards that locks for the entire turn, makes it very awkward for my opponent to continue, and you'll only put these in against very specific matchups. Of course, if you don't have Fluoros, but you do have the other Molchummy, Perulia, you can try that. And if you don't have that at all, you take these out and then you'd put in more cards you do actually have access to. Something could be like Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood if you are finding yourself going to time quite a lot. Other than that, they can very easily be Ash Blossoms, really whatever you have access to. And the final card that I'm playing is Triple D Barrier. So if you want to play D Barrier, or alternatively to D Barrier, you can play Judgment. The exact same with Fluoros is you can play Judgment instead of Barrier, and then that helps to protect you against more board breaking options. Also, as mentioned throughout the profile, if you wanted to go down the crossout route, you could play crossouts and then play different targets that will be adapted depending on the matchups you are going to be facing. You would adapt your side deck to the local environment, but the choices behind all of these are go first cards that, again, lock my opponent out for an entire turn. Rather than just for a particular play or a particular move, I'm able to lock my opponent out for an entire turn so that it comes back to me and slows the game down a little bit more, because heroes have a great ability to OTK as well as set up a very powerful go first board that can be a little bit tricky for your opponent to break, especially if you're able to set everything up. But again, in this modernized format or this modernized game, you are asking to go unanswered in a format where people are playing like 15 hand traps. Very, very unlikely, but that's where you need to have the adaptability to either be able to just play through the hand traps that are thrown at you, or you need to have the adaptability to continue to build a board or be a bit more resilient if they do throw every single hand trap at you under the sun. So that is it for the entire profile. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. I can't wait, and I really do hope that heroes get some more support. The only issue when heroes do get more support is the deck is already super tight. Like, it's very risky, or not even risky, it's very questionable as to whether or not you would cut Stratos. I feel there are some cards that you could trim the fat on. So like sometimes you might not want to play the Shining Neos, you might not want to play the little Wing Karibo. Absolutely fine, that opens up 2 spots for you. You could arguably cut Shadow Mist down to 1. You could cut Increase down to 1 as well, just to kind of trim the edges. But then those new cards that you are getting for heroes, and what I mean by that is I'm not talking about the cards that come in Supreme Darkness, I'm talking about general hero cards that will set you up with that nice bit of protection, or cards that really enhance the ability of heroes to compete at a higher level. I feel the ones in Supreme Darkness really just give heroes a bit more to be playing at the same level, maybe 1 level above, but you kind of want heroes to go oh, yo, these have just turned from like a very nice rogue fun deck to a, damn, this might actually compete alongside stuff like Blue Eyes. So maybe after we've had Blue Eyes structure deck and we get the Dark Magician structure deck, maybe we get a Hero structure deck. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.